From sport to the sport of politics, and the Dunkley by-election is a real-world test looming in a month federally. How pivotal is that to the momentum? A year out from an election, Anthony Albanese is definitely on the charm offensive. He celebrated his birthday. Very happy birthday to the Prime Minister. He's in Dunkley today, and joining me at the desk is former Howard Government Minister and Bondi Partner Senior Advisor Peter McGauran. He said it's his birthday. He goes, come on, get on board. It's pivotal, isn't it?
No question. But it's more critical to the government than it is the opposition. Everything's in favour of the government. They held the seat by a margin of 6.3% in a very pro-Labor state. So it's an opportunity for Peter Dutton to make an impact, to improve the coalition vote, but the government has to hold this seat. It's near impossible for the Liberals to win this seat, so if they even got close to an upset win, it would give momentum to the opposition.
That'd be a PR win, wouldn't it?
Yes. The government's got everything to lose and the opposition's got everything to gain.
Yep. All right, Parliament returns 2024 next week. It's going to be a fiery session. Both leaders know how much is at stake right now, don't they?
Correct. We're in the run-up to an election, probably 12 months away, but if the opportunity presented itself, Prime Minister would go early, as Prime Ministers tend to do in their first term, towards the end of this year. The ground has been staked out between them. The Prime Minister's had a terrible 6 months. He's on the back foot. I wouldn't say he's on the ropes.
He's a wily politician, isn't he?
A wily politician. He's been there close to 30 years. The Parliament's second nature to him. He performs well in the Parliament. But Peter Dutton's a natural parliamentarian too. Yeah. They're equally matched in many ways, but Anthony Albanese has incumbency to him. Yeah, he's got all of the ability to set the agenda. The economic tailwinds are beginning to build for him.
Watching Parliament sometimes would be the last thing someone wants to do, but it could be a little bit of get the popcorn and watch it the next little while, because I think it will be nice and fiery. Now, we've been discussing cost of living, we've been discussing the economy and how pivotal that is. Now, CPI numbers this week encouraging. The RBA will probably keep things on hold. We're going to see a very different setup this week, aren't we, with journalists there ready to ask questions straight after. But it does look likely after those inflation numbers that later on in the year we're going to start to see rates come down.
You're perfectly correct, Tim. The December quarter inflation rate was 4.1%. The Reserve Bank was expecting 4.3%. Now the clamouring is for them to begin to reduce interest rates. All the economists are...
That'll help the government.
That, indeed, they're banking on it. And you can see a bit of a spring in the step
banking
of Treasurer, forgive the pun, of Jim Chalmers. He seems a lot brighter the last few days. So will there be interest rate cuts towards the end of the year? In the second half of the year? Almost certainly, if we continue in this way. But the inflation's still got to get down to 3% before the Reserve Bank releases the handbrake.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some positive signs in the US, of course, which helps things as well from the perspective that we may see.
Well, they're down to 3% inflation, and the Fed Reserve did not lower interest rates as expected, and the markets have reacted adversely to that. So they are demanding an interest rate cut in America for a 3% interest rate. We're nowhere near that yet.
No, of course. Peter Dutton says taxes will always be lower in a coalition government. It doesn't look like they're going to get in the way too much of the backflip.
Correct. The government doesn't expect the backflip or the lie, depending on your point of view, to gain them any votes. This is all about containing the loss from the breach of promise, the breaking of the Albanese's word. So Dutton's done the only pragmatic, realistic thing, which is they will not oppose the government's proposal, which abandons stage 3 as the Liberals proposed initially, because it would have been waved through the Senate anyway, Tim, because the Teals and the Greens and the Independents, the two they needed, would have voted for it. So Dutton's done the right thing. It's not a net positive to the government because Albanese's personal reputation's taken a hit. But I do think that line you've just touched on, tax cut for all, has mitigated for them, and that's to the Liberals' disadvantage.
Australian live sheep carrier returning to Perth rather than risking the Red Sea, especially as 3 US soldiers were killed, of course, in Jordan. And Joe Biden has weighed up how to retaliate. We've seen him in Delaware this morning. Is this going to mean this will escalate? Is this part of that picture? What are your thoughts?
Well, counterintuitively, it has de-escalated for the moment. Iran knows it's pushed America to a breaking point with the loss of 3 troops. They seem to have stood down their surrogates, but the Americans will retaliate, no question. But the Americans have a moral rectitude. Others in the Middle East don't have. So they will be trying to locate who exactly gave the order or who was responsible. They don't respond in blind rage and kill innocent citizens. They are going to find out who is responsible. Now, that might take a bit of time. Some people are clamouring for Biden to immediately fire the missiles or the special forces retaliation. No. Revenge is a dish best eaten cold. They will target, but
They're calculated about the way
they are. Somebody will die for what was done to their troops, but they're going to make sure it's the right people.
Yeah. Peter, we'll do it again next week.
Thanks, Tim.
Busy day.